Welcome back to Skywise Observations. Yes, I have returned from the dead to bring forth a special presentation in which I would like to share a great many facts, if you will, pertaining to today's weather. And I am speaking pertaining to this day's weather, which today at 10:30 a.m. Thursday morning, March 19th, 2026, is our last official day of winter, with tomorrow being the spring equinox and the official first day of spring, if you will. Now, as you can see, we have some lingering snow and icicles, which is melting rather quickly, as we are to get up to 50 degrees Fahrenheit, if not maybe a degree or two more than that, as this day continues forth. We have been having quite the roller coaster ride of weather events over the last 3 weeks. And I will go much more into detail pertaining to what has been happening here in my neck of the woods, so to speak, here in southwestern Michigan. Because I want to speak once again on what I have brought forth in past content pertaining to Terra Reformation. And if you don't know what that is, I will clarify as we continue on. Now, I do have a previous recording from this morning, earlier, of which I will include, as well as many other past clips and a short screenshot slideshow presentation. But before we actually get into the nitty-gritty of the content that I will bring forth, I am going to step out here momentarily so we can see what we have currently kicking off. Yes, overcast skies, but as you will see eventually from that previous recording this morning, we actually had relatively decent clear skies to where the sun was quite visible, if you will. But since then, yes, we have gotten quite overcast. Now, real quick, you can see the tree buds on the branches are really popping, but they have been basically budded out throughout this complete winter season. So please take note of that. And I have shown this throughout all of the past content previous to this recording here. But I want to go back first, yes, to the date of March 1st. As the morning of March 2nd, we were to have the lunar eclipse. Now, unfortunately, said eclipse was not visible in our area, but I will go ahead and provide what I recorded the night before on March 1st. And the moon before this lunar eclipse was to occur. Now, it's nothing special. It's actually a very poor quality recording. But before we get to the end of that, less than 4 minutes from 8:45 p.m. That is when I began the recording. And like I said, not even 4 minutes in duration. By the end of that recording, you will see an aircraft flying in the vicinity of the moon, and of course you can see a trail, okay, on which this continued on, and then I once again come back out here to where I am standing right now on the balcony, and at roughly 4:30 a.m. Tuesday morning, March 2nd, because of all the aircraft activity, the recording of the moon, once again before the eclipse had begun, the skies were very watery looking. And you can see this difference between those two time slots of recordings. And I will go ahead and present those right now, back to back. And you will see their aircraft at night, shortly before 9 o'clock once again, flying in the vicinity of the moon. And of course, when that lunar eclipse was to take place, the skies were basically as they are now. And so I did not record any further. So without further ado, let's go ahead and check that out, and then we will be back. Okay, so that was fun. Now then, let's get back to situations that have occurred over the last 3 weeks pertaining to the weather here, in which we have been hit by virtually every type of weather scenario that you can possibly think of, with the exceptions of earthquakes, hurricanes. Of course, we don't get those here. Or volcanic activity. But as far as, once again, weather events, precipitous weather events, we have been hit by everything. Hail, sleet, snow. We had freezing rain this morning. Okay? And once again, we're getting the melt off from residual snow as well as the frozen precipitation or freezing rain that we had earlier this morning, in which the branches out here and the trees are still dripping from said scenario. But over the last 3 weeks of our winter, one day per week, we actually had basically above average temperatures, to where I was able to sit out here donned in nothing more than a pair of shorts and my baseball hat, enjoying the warmer temperatures as well as the sunshine. One day last week, I believe, last week, it had actually gotten up to the 70-degree Fahrenheit mark, to where I sat out here and my skin literally was turning red from the exposure to the sun. Now then, let's go ahead and move forward just a little bit in time to yesterday, in which for our state here in Michigan, we had Vice President J.D. Vance that came here to a robotics manufacturing company, in which they basically manufacture robotic arms for other manufacturing purposes. Okay, so basically manufacturing robotic arms, and those arms for manufacturing usage. Okay, so basically robotic arms on the production line. And wow, I gotta say, before I get to that, I also want to make mention that as well as the freezing rain that we had this morning, and after that we actually had fog as well. Okay, yeah, that just happened to pop in my mind, and I thought to make a quick mention of that. But getting back to J.D. Vance, man, talk about looking a lot different than typical. And this is just an observation that, well, but basically he got himself his, summertime hairdo, thinned out his beard and mustache. He even looks like he had his eyebrows trimmed down. And basically looking an awful lot younger. Just an observation once again. But not only was that going on, and I happened to jump over something else, which I will make mention of here shortly, but yesterday we also had a statewide emergency alert system broadcast that came about in many forms. And basically it was according to your location here in Michigan of how this alert would come across. Whether it would be through your cell phone, the radio, the television, or otherwise, somehow an alert would be coming forth. Now, I did not have any type of an alert come through my phone, which was quite surprising. I was not listening to the radio, even though now that I've tried to get back into my weightlifting and bodybuilding and so on and so forth, in which I do listen to the radio on many different stations throughout my workouts. I did not have the radio on at that given hour of 1 o'clock p.m. when this was to take place, but I did record what came across the television. A little bit low in volume, so you might have to turn up your volume in order to hear this. And surprisingly, our sirens here did not go off because that was another mode of this emergency testing, if you will. But if you listen to the wordings, and which it used to be, well, basically just weather, in the event of severe weather, alerts should be sent out, right? Well, now there's just that much more, of course. The way that I seen it, was just in preparation for this upcoming, well, what I already feel that we are in the midst of is World War III. Now then, something more to bring about. We are looking at one of the cardinals here, and then back here is a black fox squirrel. But anyways, we now have this situation of, well, once again, historic weather events. Today, there's supposed to be historic temperatures of heat out in the western states. 2 days ago, we had an historic blizzard event that took place in northern Michigan that closed down the Mackinac Bridge, and to where in one location there was a accumulation measurement of snow that exceeded 50 inches. And actually it was reported as 52 inches in depth. A historic blizzard here in Michigan, and now we have historic heat out in the western states. But let's go ahead and check out this emergency broadcast that I recorded. And before we get to the emergency broadcast, I would also like to make mention that we have also, over the last 3 weeks, give or take, within the last 3 weeks, I'll just say, we have also had tornadic activity that has taken place, or tornado events, if you will, which has also included the loss of lives. And we also had a flooding event that took place right nearby my location, to where quite a few homes were actually flooded, had gotten flooded out. But let's go ahead and go to this emergency broadcast real quick.
This is a test of the emergency alert system originating from the Michigan State Police State Emergency Operations Center in Lansing. If this had been an actual emergency, such as a tornado, toxic material release, nuclear plant incident, widespread phone or power outages, or other state or local emergency that affects safety, official messages would have followed the alert tone. This test is presented in conjunction with Michigan Severe Weather Awareness Week. Severe weather can strike at any time. It is important to be prepared to act when the sirens sound and/or alerts are issued. For preparedness information and materials, visit michigan.gov/MI Ready. This concludes this test of the emergency alert system.
Okay, so in conclusion, I'm going to once again bring about Terra Reformation, which basically means to reform Earth. Okay? Now, the first time that I heard this term was through, once again, I bring up this television series a lot because of its predictive programming that I have observed and experienced for many years now, and that is the so-called science fiction show known as Stargate SG-1. And I had actually heard that term, Terra Reformation, within one of those episodes of Stargate SG-1. So I decided here just recently, let's go ahead and check out what Google has to say pertaining to Terra Reformation. Well, it did not bring up what I had requested. Rather, it brought up terraforming. Okay, now within the screenshot slideshow that will end this video, you might want to pause so that you can read some of these definitions. Because terraforming was actually a term coined back in the 1940s, 1941 I believe it states. And it was basically pertaining to providing a habitable location on a celestial body, such as, let's just take like the moon for an example, to where it's basically just a dead, lifeless, once again, celestial object in which, through many different operations, let's say, it can be transformed into a human habitat, if you will, or possibly other life. But we go into Terra Reformation or Terra Reforming, and that is the attempts to correct what is already there, reforming Earth for whatever reasons. Now there's other types of reforms or reformations that I could go into that much more, but I'm going to keep this pertaining to the climate and the environment, because this is what I have been noticing or observing for many years pertaining to whatever had happened that changed our weather scenarios to where there's been a major increase in sky activities, of which many like to claim as being chemtrailing, cloud seeding, geoengineering, stratospheric aerosol injections, I can't remember what it's called when it's involving reflecting the sunlight away from the planet and all that. This is all Terra Reformation. Okay? They are trying to reform our weather. And this is why we've been having so many issues. Now then, this is where I am going to ask you to go down into the description once this video is over Because there's still more people out there on YouTube land that is coming to the conclusions of, hey, these so-called tinfoil conspiracy theorists over chemtrailing are actually correct and have been. And you know what's really crazy is a lot of these larger channels on this platform are coming forth and making these claims of, wow, this is really happening. What's going on? People are still waking up. So one of the first links that I will go ahead and throw at you, if you would like to click onto it, and this is a rather short video, through Carl Vernon. And I believe he is in the UK someplace. I am not for certain. I only watch his channel off and on, nothing frequent, just occasional. But this one here, I decided I need to share. But we now go into yet another a motto, phrase, or saying that many people have been incorporating over the last couple of years, which is, as above, so below. Now this is going to really upset people that already get upset through these sky observations that we know for a fact it's being carried out. And here in Michigan, it is on a daily basis, virtually 24/7, creating the weather events, the weather scenarios. Well, it's gotten that much worse because once again, we go as above and down to below. Because now they are geoengineering the waters. And I will provide another link in the description below. It's a little bit longer video, but it shows what they are doing now pertaining to the water and the geoengineering operations that are being carried out and taking place. And it is very disturbing. And if you read the comments to that video, you will see that very few people are in favor of this. Most people are crying out foul, hardcore. Many people are crying out for blood now to those controllers of our weather scenarios. And remember, people, this is going on globally. It does not matter what else is going on in the world as far as wars or what have you. And whether this is an agreement among many, many nations under possibly the United Nations over all this, it's hard to determine. Because we have so many secrecies amongst these so-called intelligence agencies. And, well, if you know anything about the Central Intelligence Agency here in the United States, that they have their fingers into virtually everything. And of course, the internet, right? Well, within my screenshot slideshow, you will see a little bit more pertaining to that agency and the questions that I asked. Now, I believe that I have covered everything, so I will end this with that screenshot slideshow. And once again, if you so desire and are interested, please click on to at least the second link. You know, you can go ahead and bypass Mr. Vernon if you would like, and jump right into that geoengineering of the waters. Because once again, if these sky observations or operations, upset you, this will set your blood boiling. yeah, you might get fired up over this one. And this is information that came out just the other day. So on that note, I am going to head back to the grave. This, once again, was just a special presentation. And by now, once this is all combined together, it might be rather lengthy. So thank you ever so kindly for watching. Take care. Try to have yourselves a great one. And as you can see, a lot of this has already dissipated since I first started recording. And I will state, it is also quite nice to see, well, like down here, our spring birds, our state bird, the red-breasted robin, as well as many other spring or summer birds are also starting to make their appearance. And once again, just thank you for watching. Skywise out.